Hello everybody. Today we'll be seeing a Java program on exception and exception handling, and we'll try to make custom exceptions. So exceptions are basically errors. So so in Java we could try to handle errors. There are some inbuilt exception handling mechanisms. We would try we would give a block of statements inside a try block where we check whether there is some error. If any error is found at the end of try block, there would be a catch block to report the error and execute it. And the keywords mainly used are try to set the boundaries or block at which we are going to scan or check. And then there is throw, that is to throw an exception if found, and then there are catch block that is used to find which exception and make the appropriate steps. And then we could also create a custom exception. Custom exceptions are exceptions which are made by the user itself. Other than this, there are inbuilt exceptions like arithmetic exception, null pointer exception, and so on. So in custom exception, we would create a class name and anything, and we would suppose say invalid EMPID exception, and then we would give some logic whether to check it is that exception or not, and then if it is so, we would give a message that this is to be printed if such an exception occurs. And today we will be seeing a program to create a class uh, to represent an employee with employee ID, name, and age, and create a main class that would contain an object for EMPID with EMPID, age, and name, and it should follow the following constraints: that the EMPID should not be below 4 digits, and that if a name is a number, then it's an invalid, and we should throw an exception called as invalid name exception. So for and if age is greater than 50, it should be an invalid age exception. So at these cases only this record has to be taken, and otherwise such an exception should be thrown. A message should be given to the user. And for creating a custom exception, we should declare a class with the following name, and then that should be extended from the base class exception, which contains every exceptions in Java. This is the supermost class, and we'll see the code. So this is my employee class. In it contains age, ID, name, and several getters and setters, as you can see. And then in the main, before main, let's say we created a class called invalid ID, which is extended from the exception, and in its constructor we have a super function that is to send a string that is a message, that while object creation, that message has to be sent to the super class saying that this is a message when an exception arises. Similarly, for invalid age and invalid name, we have the same logic. And in the main, we would see, we start from the main, we create an object for employee, and then we are trying to take values to it. And here you could see that employee name, and employee ID and age are being taken into a string and two integers respectively, and then we check if the age is greater than 50 or less than 50 or not. If so, then we would say it's an invalid age. It's a valid age if it is less than 50, else we would throw an invalid age exception. For that we create an object of invalid age, and then we give argument as a string that we pass to the superclass, and that object is being thrown and caught by the catch block. Since there are multiple types of exceptions, we separate them through or operator, and E is an object which holds it and it prints the messages. And then we have, if the employee ID is a valid ID. That means if it is greater than 4 and less than sub 7-digit number, then fine, we could, it's a valid ID. Otherwise, another exception of invalid ID stating the message ID is not in the range of 4 to 6 digits is being created and thrown. And here we have for checking if the name contains any digits or not. So for that I have created a function called as check. So in check we run through the each characters in the string that is obtained from the user for name, and then we take an individual character and check whether is it a number, is it a number or not. If it is a number, then return 0, else if everything is not a number, then it will return 1. So when we go to the rest part, we could see that if it is 1, then it's valid, else it's invalid. So the name, we could see that, otherwise an exception is being thrown, and if no such problem occur, we could display everything, and we could see that at each valid cases we set that to the object as well. So and then we use a variable CL, that is to check if it is satisfying all the cases. If so, we could break out of the loop and set this for each object. And now let's run this program and check whether it's working or not. Enter the name of the employee. Let the name be Arun, ID be 1 2 alone, and age be 23. And now we got that wrong input. ID is not in the range of 4 to 6 because we gave it as 12. Now let's see for the other exception, that is name be 123 Ram, 12 Ram, and employee ID, let it be 567, and the age be 34. And now look, the exception is name contains digit. Now let's check for the age as well. So now the name be Raj, and ID let's be 4500, and age be 89. Age is above 50 is new exception. Now let's give for the right cases. If the name is Rahul, suppose Rahul, ID be 4500, and the age be at the range of less than 50, then we have every details regarding the person, that is age 34, ID 4500, and the name is Rahul. So it's a valid input, and this is all about exception handling with customized exceptions. Thank you.